And this is the beginning of Dedd Air 2. The thought that I've got, I acquired it, I don't know, a little bit ago. I saw a meme and it showed 5 cities: Chicago, Los Angeles, Detroit, St. Louis, and New Orleans. I'm sorry, not Los Angeles, Miami. And it said, if you take away these 5 cities, America goes from something like the 15th or 20, middle of the road in terms of safety and gun violence as a country. That if you take away those 5 cities, it plummets down to like 198, 202. And I think that's really interesting. So you've got a fact, you don't like it, and we're going to alter this fact so it fits the narrative. What's interesting about that to me is the Republicans are doing that now, and when I say that, I mean people who lean to the right. That's all I mean. They're doing this very thing now that created the term fake news. The very thing that they didn't like in the Democrats, the Republicans are now doing. And I've seen this a little bit over the last few weeks, and especially over the last, I want to say 4 or 5 days. I've noticed a lot of this. If you take away this, if you take away that. All right, that's all well and good. You take away those 5 massive metropolitan areas and you get rid of that singular crime statistic. Oh, wow, you've done something good. Good for you. Okay, but it's a ledger and you have to balance it. If you're going to, and it's practically Newtonian. You've got an action, you need an equal reaction to balance it. What you lose when you take away that metropolitan area, and 5 of them in this case, you don't just lose that singular statistic, you lose all of the good that come from that mass amount of people who do a lot to keep this country going on a day-to-day basis, and do a lot, just to go to work, to make some money, to feed their family, so they can not be hungry when they go back to work the next day to do the exact same thing. And this shift, to me, it's really created this idea of, okay, so now I'm seeing for the first time in my life how something like this does change over time, and change very dramatically, and at this point for myself, very quickly. If I've got the same idea about something at 27 as I did at 18, to me that's an issue. That's a third of my life, 33%. That means that in that area, there's been no improvement, there's been no growth, there's been no looking at it to see if it can be improved or if there's something better now. I mean, we do that with dietary science quite a bit, especially younger people will eschew something that may be new, say like a few months old of an idea, and, okay, this idea has been disproven, so this is what I'm going to now. There is a tendency, and I do meet older people who have these terrible dietary beliefs. And, politicking is no different. We have so many, the issue really, and this is where it's going to fucking start to get angry. We don't have a fucking gun issue. We have a mental health issue. But you can't explain this to people, and in particular, the fucking gun nuts. Okay, take away all the guns. Sure, General Hirohito was totally right in 1942 when he was like, you can't go to America because they got a fucking gun behind every blade of grass. That was applicable in the 40s. That is not applicable now. That has not been applicable for, I would say, like fucking 30 years. Sure, all the citizens can have the guns. Great. We don't have planes. We don't have tanks. We don't have bombs. We can't turn off the electricity. We can't just fuck the country. The government's not coming for our guns. They're not. They haven't in Australia. They haven't in other countries where they've done this. This is not the beginning of fascism. It was an acceptable form of regulation to get to fascism when it was sensible 70, 80 years ago. And even more in a closer period of time than that in other third world countries. And it'll definitely be something that we discuss are the third world countries that are how they are because we've fucked them. So the crux of all this is really simple. I believe America is a shithole in so many ways, and we have the metrics to prove it. We have the numbers to say it. That we have the math to say, here's how you suck. Get better. You know, I do take some umbrage with that when people eschew fact for ideology, because it's fucking stupid. I'm sitting back now. This doesn't make any sense when standing up. You know, there's gonna be some dead air because I'm trying to get to the next point in this. Actually, I'm just gonna press pause. And since it's ego-based, it's such an entirely solvable issue. You know, this whole idea of, you know, America's number one. It's the best. It's the greatest at this, that, and the other, and we even made fucking sliced bread. Okay, that's good at that point in time. At that exact point in time, that is a sensible thought. The immediate moment after, it becomes ego, because now you're living in the past. And the moment it becomes, well, what could we do in the future? Again, it's ego, and it does nothing to solve the issue we have right now. The issue we have is we won't fucking admit where we suck and do something about it. We'd rather say, well, it's their fault and the people who believe that. That's fucking fake news. We're not where we're at because of any one political party. We're not where we're at because there's fucking globalists pulling the strings. This isn't some complicated game with a bunch of cabals and secret organizations that run everything. There's a couple of those. But really, you've got a citizenry that doesn't vote. And I don't mean the president, because that election's bullshit. That's all pretty much determined by gerrymandering as our future state elections. But if you vote in consecutive elections, you change the gerrymandering, and then you give the power of the vote, the power that it actually used to have before we could redistrict everything to secure a nomination in a future party. We get all caught up in who's going to be the president, and that's important to an extent. You know, you want your figurehead to, be a fucking adult. It's a lot more important at the state and local level. The people who actually do the things that give us the laws we do and don't have, and give us the issues we do and don't have. I'm not a particular fan of that in people. I myself, I can't legally vote because I'm a felon. So that's a whole other issue we have that really tells a segment of society you're not worthy of this, and we don't value your idea. And what it really does is it takes minorities and puts them at a huge disadvantage. Because now we already basically enslaved them in privatized prisons, and then they come out of jail, and now they've got somehow even less rights than before after they've paid their quote-unquote debt. So it's funny how that works. I guess what I'd like to tie this up with, in a nice, neat little bow if I can, it's been very quick that the Republican Party has made this shift in tactics and they're doing the exact same things that they hated 3 years ago. And the voting people are doing the exact same thing now. It's very strange. The extreme anger that people had when Donald Trump won the election, that was very, it was a flicker. It was very bright, it was very hot, and it was gone. People who lean to the right, and who are vocal about these things, they've sustained that. Where the people who were upset, they eventually got over it. The opposition has just been angry about it from the start. And it's the exact same thing I saw when Barack Obama became president. The people who wanted him to win, they were happy, and then it was gone. What are you going to do? The people who were angry, well, they're still angry about it. So that's ridiculous too. you know, what it really comes down to is stop voting for parties. Because at the end of the day, those are jobs. And you're voting for people, we're voting for people consistently whose end goal, and it shouldn't be surprising as a society, whose end goal is to profit and to make as much money as they can. We've allowed that to happen. It's quite sad. So what I learned from having this idea, what I learned from this thought is, and I probably already knew it, but you don't put things into focus sometimes. You know, my ideas on things need to change rapidly, constantly, all the time. Because if they're not, the fuck am I doing? Shortchanging myself. This is something that I think would definitely be better with a second person, which I currently don't have. It's happened before, but you know, you can listen, Vince, you fucking fat fuck. We need your microphones, all right, and we need you to get me angry and all hot and bothered about this shit. Because there's just too much dead air.